Hey guys, this is going to be a response to bionicdance's video titled Army of Strawmen. Now, although I do agree with the majority of her points, there were some that I thought were either not thought out well enough or simply fallacious. The one in particular that I had the most problem with was when she poses atheism and theism as a sort of dichotomy, that you're either an atheist or a theist. There is nothing else. That if you're not a theist, then by default you're an atheist. And this whole by default atheism thing, I do not agree with at all. Atheism needs to be a useful definition. So when somebody comes up to you and tells you he's an atheist, you can have something in mind, and both of you would be pretty much on the same page about what kind of worldviews he has. Otherwise, atheism is just a useless definition. And why would we use a useless definition? I would not call myself an atheist if babies are atheists. I would have to think up of another definition in that case. So, what's the problems I have with this dichotomy? Well, first of all, if you take, for example, some sects of Buddhism. Now, I might be wrong about this, and if I am, please correct me in the comments section, but there are some sects of Buddhism which do not really believe in gods, but they do believe in reincarnation. So, are they atheists because they don't believe in gods? No, they're Buddhists. Buddhism is a religion. And I hope bionicdance doesn't disagree with this. So, are they atheists simply because they don't believe in God? No, they have their own set of beliefs and their own spiritual philosophies that don't necessarily have to do with a specific deity, but they still cannot be considered atheists. And atheism and theism is not really a dichotomy. There is a lot in the middle. There's deism, pantheism, and panentheism, and even agnosticism is on that scale. On one end of the scale, you have the theism, which is a belief in a personal deity. Not in all cases, but in most cases, it's the belief in a personal deity that's looking after you, answering your prayers, created the universe and has a plan in mind or certain goals that he created the universe for. Now, a little bit beyond that, you have a non-personal God that still has all the attributes of God, all-powerful, all-knowing, and so on, that did create the universe, but he just doesn't look after mankind in particular, but rather he just created nature and maybe looks after nature as a whole. You can also have the belief that the universe itself is a manifestation of God and a part of God. And this is personally something that I believed in a transition from being Jewish to atheist. I had this stage in the middle which wasn't really atheism and not really theism. I didn't believe that God was a conscious thinking being, but rather that the universe was just one of the manifestations of this being or this energy. And you can't really consider that theism in any way. Beyond that, you have that the universe and God are synonymous. So that's believing in God, but not believing that it's really a conscious God that makes decisions and actually acts in any way, but rather that the universe and everything that happens in it is just God. That's what you call God, and that's probably what Einstein was. Now, beyond that, you have agnosticism, which would say God either exists or doesn't exist. That's it. I don't know. I have no say in the matter. Beyond that, you have atheists or your definition of atheists, which are people who lack a belief in God, which are babies or animals or rocks or dildos. And beyond that, you have strong atheists, which are people who actively think about theology and atheism and arguments and so on, and actively learn about different ideas of God to try to see if there's any merit to them and disprove them. And beyond that, you have people who believe that God does not exist. I now believe that God does not exist. I have no evidence to back up this belief of mine, but I'm still considered an atheist, even though it is a type of belief for me, at least in this point. I lack a belief in God in the sense that I don't have any belief in gods. But I do have one belief that God does not exist, that it's not likely that God exists, and I can be wrong about this. So it's not really a dichotomy, it's more of a scale. And if you do think about atheism and theism as a dichotomy, then not only are babies atheists, but they're also asexual, apolitical. There's no end to what they're of. They're I don't know. I mean, it just makes atheism be a completely useless definition. So, if somebody tells you that he's an atheist, do you assume that he never heard about the concept of God, or that he actually did hear about the concept of God and made a conscious decision or observed the arguments for God and chosen not to accept them?